What's up, YouTube? It's me, the Artisan MC, and today I'm going to review for you X-Men 97, Episode 4, Life, no, Motendo / Life Death Part 1. I will say for the split title that this was kind of a speed run through some stories. Um, they got to it pretty quickly in 33 minutes. They really did. But this one picks up with the X-Men after the whole event with the Goblin Queen and it being Jubilee's 18th birthday. And while she wants to go to the arcade and have a good time, Magneto wants the X-Men to train, and Jubilee doesn't like that too much. So while she's in her room, complaining with Robert about it, Roberto DaCosta, she notices a video game system on her dresser and wants to play video games. And it is a Motendo. Well, discovering the device actually activates and takes control of them and plunges her and Roberto into a digital world. And in that digital world, it is revealed that it is Mojo. He has returned to get higher ratings and he's gone back to what works for him, which is using the X-Men for entertainment. And he has picked Jubilee to be the star of this and put her into a video game and stream it throughout the dimensions. Now, Mojo is one of those characters that he's kind of funny because he's wily in a sense, but his games always have death in mind. He's trying to kill, the lead, in a sense. And having Jubilee and Roberto stuck in this video game is interesting because they get to pull on some tropes from other things that you may have seen before, like The Matrix, Tron, Scott Pilgrim, and Ghost in the Shell, strangely enough, towards the end, which was interesting. Now, part of the fun of this, the first part of the episode, is getting to see video game tropes that you know from Marvel, particularly video games. Now, I'm a gamer. I'm an old gamer. And I played a lot of video games. And I do remember playing some of these early Marvel games. And seeing that was just nostalgia bait for me, to see these games, recognize the music, recognize the sound effects and the settings. Like, oh, this is 8-bit. This is 16-bit stuff. Funny as hell to me. Seeing how the animation style overlapped with contemporary animation and then 16-bit graphics in the background was fun. But the more interesting part of the story is the lesson that's being taught to Jubilee through this endeavor, that you cannot stay young forever, that eventually you do have to grow up. Now, there's a character that pops up in this that I actually got wrong. I thought it was another character, but it turned out to be a different one, which was kind of cool, which story-wise I like, because I like the understanding that there is progression for everything. There is progression. And little hints at progression for characters sets them on the road of expectation for our audience. Right? So I did like that. I did like getting to see Mojo and Spiral, but that part of the episode wrapped up pretty quickly. And I won't spoil it completely here. The second part of the episode gets into Forge and Storm out on Forge's ranch and getting a little bit more introduction to him and what he is doing to try to help Storm get her powers back. Now, the part that I appreciate that they touched on was Forge's abilities, how his abilities actually work, and how he has access to different parts of his brain that lets him see the connections and things and put things together, right? For based on his imagination, in a sense. This is why, while Forge can design a lot of things, he may not have the technical know-how to actually make it work. I think it's been said that inventors in the Marvel universe, like Tony Stark and Reed Richards, are better than Forge, even though Forge has the ability to create whatever he imagines. They actually know how to do it better. But I think that's just the basis of how clearly they define Forge's abilities and what he is able to do. Right? You can create it, you may not know how it works. I don't know. You can put it together, you might not know how it works. Seems kind of limited in a sense. But having that whole explanation and getting a little bit of his history was beneficial because at one point in the episode, you get to see Forge's picture of him with X Factor, his time with the government. Because understand, this is happening. This is X-Men '97, so it's a continuation of the original X-Men cartoon. In the original X-Men cartoon, when they met Forge, Forge was working for the government and he was working with X Factor, which I like because that's where you get Polaris and Havoc showing up, a strong guy, a multiple man. A lot of other characters that are really cool that have the tie to the X-Men. That would just be more fun to introduce into this show. Now, while going through on the ranch and actually talking with Storm, you get an understanding of how intricate Storm's ability to control the weather is and how she actually perceives the weather, knowing the direction of the winds and how certain things work, how intimate that is, which I appreciated because one of the most interesting powers I think to have is to be an elemental and being having control over one of the four elements of this world and understanding how Storm manipulates that stuff and what it feels like to work those forces around you is interesting to me because I don't think I've heard it described in quite that way in that much detail. And that's one of the things that I like about superhero comic books and characters that you can get exploration or understanding about a phenomenon like that if the person writing it actually puts that thought into it. So understanding how intimately Storm is to weather and how it moves and how things happen and to have that stripped away from her is fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me up to the point where it makes it seem like she is useless without it, that she is just her power. And for me, for my knowledge of Storm, that's not who she is. She's more than just her power. She's not just a goddess because she has powers. She is a goddess because of how she behaves, what she does with her powers. She defines it. All right. Not vice versa. The powers don't define who she is. She defines what the powers are, in my mind. Now, part of this I think seems a little rushed is because it's a short episode. It's Forge admitting that he loves Aurora. Now, I know this happened in the comic that Forge and Storm do have a relationship or have had a relationship, but in this episode it seemed really rushed. It didn't even make any sense for it to pop up the way it did. I mean, he tells her and it's like out of nowhere. Like, why are you even saying this? What is this day two? You just seem crazy in a sense. So I didn't care for that too much. Um, there was a line thrown in there about the government that I didn't care for either. But there is a reveal of why Forge is actually helping Storm, why he sought her out to help her. There's a reveal on that, which is interesting to say the least. But the next part is not understandable to me because I'd never read the story of life death in the comics where Storm went and got her powers back from Forge. So I do not know who this villain is in this because make no mistake about it, it's a comic book cartoon. There is a villain. I don't know who this villain is. And I'm thinking the villain is more so the Shadow King, but it gave itself a different name, which doesn't make sense. And is kind of warping some reality in a sense. So I'm not sure who that is. Obviously not. It could be Demon Bear. I don't know. But I don't think it is. So I'm interested to find out who this character is in a part two of this next week. But for this episode, it was intriguing. It was very intriguing because I don't know exactly what's happening. So I'm riding with the story and trying to figure it out as I go. And I am intrigued to see who this character is. So on the whole, this was a good episode in the sense that it put us on another path to develop in the story. The first arc, the first 3 episodes was very good. This one is starting off, hopefully, another arc. So we'll see what happens with these characters from here going forward. But that's it. Thank you for watching this video. Like, share, subscribe, support the show if you feel so inclined. I've been Artisan MC, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.